各位来宾您好，欢迎莅临由文化部影视及流行音乐产业局主办的台湾 Beats 国际论坛暨媒合会。下午场大师讲座让录音从此不一样 ，Hook Audio 的3D 环绕音讯科技现在开始。本场次的主持人是台大社会系助理教授李明聪先生，让我们用热烈的掌声欢迎他。
各位午安。那么今天一整天的盛会在今天也是在今天最后一场。那么在这一场的主题其实非常有趣哦，它事实上是在这个数位串流音乐的年代里面，我们希望能够在如同打开水龙头般就有的音乐这样的一个流动的声音场景里面，找到一些更深刻的体验。而这个体验它需要有一个物质的这样的一个媒介。那今天最后一场我们要谈的就是在这个希望能够让音乐的聆听更加的深刻，更加的透过科技的导入，让它的身体感还有对于音乐所可以探索的可能性可以更加的最大化。那我们今天很高兴邀请到这个 Anthony Mattana， 他是全球第一款无线蓝牙耳机，同时结合3D 环绕音响的录音跟麦克风的这样的一个公司，也就是它的产品是 Hookverse 哈。那么公司名字是 Hook Audio。那么同时他们也除了做这个耳机以外，同时也做录音的 APP 哈。那今天我们很高兴邀请到 Anthony Mattana， 他就是这个 Hookverse 的发明人，也是 Hook Audio 的founder 哈。那么他自己本身也是音乐人，是作曲人，那同时也是一个对于声音非常敏感、对于音响非常讲究的发烧友哈。那么过去他接受过的训练，其实蛮正统，而且非常硬派的哈。那么其实他做过剧场的音效设计师，长期也在百老汇做过很多档厉害的剧场，包括这个百老汇上空子弹、金刚等等哈。那么也因为这样的一个很扎实的经验，他为上百出剧场设计过音效。那么在那个过程里面，他对声音的敏感这件事情，除了对一个专业者而言，他也希望能够带给更多的常民百姓都可以有这样的一个让耳朵变得更锐利，同时细腻，让声音的环绕这件事情，或者更立体感的体验，不只是在昂贵的剧场里面才能达成，那也可以甚至透过我们的行动载体，透过耳机就可以达成哈。也因为这样子，所以 Anthony Mattana 他相信这个声音就像我们手机里面其实变得非常容易就可以拍照，并且不止拍照，还可以做各式各样的视觉的设计、分享、体验等等哈。那他认为在声音上面，其实大有可为的空间还是非常的大的哈。那也因为这样，不管是聆听或者录音这件事，他都认为应该要透过他们公司的产品跟努力，能够有一些升级哈。好，今天我们是不是就很用热烈的掌声来欢迎 Anthony Mattana 来跟我们做他所过去研发，还有指向一个比较有未来感的这样的一个产品设计，乃至于他对声音、音乐这件事情的概念的创新的分享。我们热烈掌声欢迎 Anthony。
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us for the whole day. I know it's been a long day, so thanks for sticking till the end. I'll do my best to make it worth it. Thank you to Taiwan Beats, the Taiwanese Ministry of Culture, for having me today. I'm very honored to be invited to be a guest speaking here. My name is Anthony Mattana. I'm the founder and CEO of Hook Audio. And I'm here to talk to you guys about the next chapter in music technology and music listening. It's a chapter that we're just sort of in the very early stages of right now, and that is called binaural 3D audio. But more on that in a bit. So I believe the speakers before me and your brochure says we have a website set up. You can also scan that QR code. Throughout the talk today, I will be talking about a lot of 3D audio, and you'll probably be like, what does that sound like? Thankfully, you will be able to hear. So when I reference a video, you'll want to go on your phone, load that video, press play, make sure you're listening with headphones so you can understand what I'm saying throughout the talk today. Could I just get a show of hands to see, does everyone have the page loaded? Is everyone good? Just raise your hand if you're set. Okay. I'm going to wait a little longer until I see more hands. How about now? Raise your hand if you're good. Nice. Okay. So, for the past century, the devices that we have used to listen or consume audio on have often dictated the way artists of that time make the music. So, for example, take one of the first devices that we use to play back or consume commercial audio, the transistor radio. In the early 20th century, the transistor radio was the device to consume and listen to audio on. Now, the transistor radio had one speaker, a mono speaker. And that was important because at the time, that was the only way to really hear audio, through one channel. So the artists at the time were very indicative of that type of playback experience. Artists like Louis Armstrong or Billie Holiday, those who had a centralized voice. It wasn't a full band, it was an artist. They were meant to be heard, and they were mixed that way so that they could come clear through a transistor radio. Another type of content that was very popular at that time was radio plays or radio dramas, stories that you could listen to on a radio. I don't know about here, but in the States, there was a very, very popular radio play called Little Orphan Annie, which was a radio play about a little orphan Annie and her story. Content like this works very well through one speaker because it's the only way you could hear, and it was one voice. So for example, I want you to play the first video on our playlist. Now, it's a long video, so I want you to just play around the first minute. And you can go ahead and press play now, and I'm going to cut us off after a minute after you've heard that. So go ahead. Okay, that's pretty good. So if you notice when you were listening to that, all of the sound was right here. Even though you were listening on headphones that can play back left and right audio, the entire audio was mixed right in the center because it was mixed for one channel. What's really interesting, if I go back here, you can see as a radio play, you see 9 people trying to tell a story, gunshots, voices, around one microphone, because that was the way you listened back, was on one speaker. So the directionality of content of that time was identical to the way we listened. The next big shift in playback technology we see in the mid-20th century is the advent of the stereo system. Stereo system is unique in a lot of ways. Mainly, it's the first time we have the ability to hear left and right audio in our living rooms. It's also the first time where a full centralized system has a headphone jack to listen on headphones. So before the stereo system, all of the content that we were consuming was with one channel. Now the stereo system brought two. And that's very important because the type of artists that benefited from a stereo system were those that, if played back through a mono speaker, would sound like garbage. So artists like Led Zeppelin, The Doors, The Beatles, all these rock and roll bands who heavily experimented with audio coming from the right and the left and panning up and down, finally had this amazing ability to create a new type of art form. And it was because people listened to it on a stereo system. They even advertised it that way. Also, the look of a rock band worked very well for a stereo system when you played back, because a four-piece rock band, right? You had the singer in the center, the guitarist to the left, the bassist to the right, the drums in the back. A stereo system could replicate that audio image so that when you listen back, you could feel like you knew exactly where the artists were. So artists took advantage of this system like rock and roll because it was the perfect type of art form for this technology. To give you an example, I want you guys to listen to number 2 in our playlist. A really huge pioneers of taking advantage of stereo technology were the Beatles. You'll notice right away when you play this video how they use stereo audio and how it's evolved from just that single audio channel. So go ahead and press play and just listen to the first minute. I'm hearing a Little Orphan Annie somewhere. Okay, that's good. Go ahead and press pause. So did you notice right from the get-go, now you're having music mix that comes in on the right channel and the left channel. A totally different type of sonic art, of listening experience, when the artist knows that the listener can now hear with 2 ears and not just one. Whoever's playing it, we can stop it now, though. I heard you play it. Okay. The next big shift that we see in the technology, again, that plays back the music that we hear, is a compact disc. The first sort of push into a digital frontier, a digital form of both producing and consuming audio. Now, what's interesting about the compact disc and the type of music that it influenced was the fact that you had to look at how the music production experience changed, from going with analog and stereo systems and cutting direct to vinyl to basically bouncing to a CD. So now we're using computers to bounce that music to a digital device. So you're seeing a lot more artists use computers to make the music. So it's sort of a one-stop shop that if I'm going to use the computer to bounce that, I'm going to want to work on a computer because it's all sort of inclusive. It's all already there. So what you start to see are artists use a lot more digital audio, understandably, because they're now digital workstations that make these compact discs. So this is a time when you see a huge rise in the birth of hip-hop. Artists like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, record labels come out of digital sampling music because it worked with the type of technology that we then produce that music on. So for an example, I want you to listen to video number 3 in the playlist and hear how digital music rose because of the digital implementation of the compact disc. Go ahead and press play now. He likes it? Yeah. Okay, that's good. What's also interesting to note and pick up on in this music is we start to shed a bit away from dynamics. The CD allows this sort of compressed, highly sort of loud listening experience. And the artists that made for compact discs were aware of this, whether they realized or not. They knew that the compact disc would be digital, it would be compressed, it would be convenient. And so you see a sort of pull away from directionality and amplitude that you saw in the time of stereo and analog records. Now, that gets only worse when we move past compact disc and into digital media and early streaming platforms like Napster, LimeWire. Even before Spotify or Apple Music, you had a device like the iPod that promised one thing, right? To have all of your music in your pocket. Well, when you want all the music in your pocket, you want all the music as fast as you can get it and as easily as you can get it. And Napster was a huge proponent in getting all that music to a lot of people to that iPod. Now, Napster is important because at the time, we don't have great internet connections. We don't have fast computers. We don't have computers with a lot of storage space. Yet we've got this iPod that can store everything. So we are downloading music at incredibly low qualities, at very, very low file size, and putting it on our iPods. And what's interesting about the music around that time is if you notice a lot of the music that was popular during the sort of huge push of the iPod was music that would sound good whether it was 1 megabyte or 1 gigabyte. This was loud music that could be heavily compressed, could be downloaded on Napster, really low quality, and you would still be able to understand what's happening. It didn't have any dynamics, it didn't have a lot of style, it was just, it could be heard no matter what. So you see a lot of stadium hip hop, a lot of stadium rap like Jay-Z, Kanye West, this loud music that sounds good, whether it's high quality or low quality. When it comes to rock and roll, you've got the White Stripes and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who are also rock bands, but loud and can be compressed heavily and can be listened to on an iPod. To give you an example, here's one of the most famous popular songs of the time when the iPod is in its prime. A song that lacks dynamics completely, doesn't have any sort of push to left and right, but it can sound good at a very low file size, because that's what we wanted at the time from the devices we were listening to. So go ahead and listen to the first minute of this song. There might be an ad, I apologize in advance. Okay, good. So did you notice when you listened to that, you didn't hear a lot of left or right audio? It all sort of sounded in the center. It was heavily compressed, didn't have a lot of dynamics. It was just one wall of sound. It felt like you were almost listening to mono audio. Because at the time, that's where we were. We were in this digital convenience over quality music listening experience that artists like 50 Cent and large hip hop groups sort of benefited from. But something is happening different now. Something is beginning to change, and it's only been happening in the last few years, and it's where it brings us to now. In the 21st century, we are seeing the device that we consume our audio on now necessarily isn't a transistor radio or a stereo system or an iPod. They're headphones. And headphones have gotten more affordable. They've gotten higher quality. Your Bluetooth headphones now don't cut out every 3 minutes when you listen to music. We are consuming content on headphones and mobile devices more than ever. And the headphones that we have at our disposal now are better than ever. So you're starting to see people have more of an interest in the quality of sound rather than the convenience and quantity of getting it all in their pocket. So a lot of the art that has been made in the last few years relates to this. All four of these artists here have made audio experiences, audio content that are tailored for headphone usage. They're designed for you to be able to listen on headphones because they know that their audiences are listening on headphones. That's where binaural 3D audio has found a place. It is becoming more of a popular used format today because people are consuming more content on headphones than ever. One of the artists in this group is a man by the name of Perfume Genius. He's a pretty popular pop star in America. He's signed with a record label called Matador Records, which is a pretty big American label. And his sound is perfect for listening to on headphones. And he knows this. His audience is a younger millennial audience who listens to most of his music on headphones. So he used binaural 3D audio on his album because most people will be listening on headphones. Now, I haven't explained what binaural 3D audio is because I'm going to let Perfume Genius in this little video explain exactly what it is and why they used it on the album. So go ahead and press play on video 5.
Please raise your hand if you can get access to the network, and I will go help you. 如果你连不到网路的话，举手，我会过去协助你。
If anyone's done listening, raise your hand, just so I know everyone's heard it. Great, okay. So that's binaural 3D audio. It is audio captured identically to the way your ears hear sound. The result is when you listen back on any pair of headphones to this audio, you hear it like the recordist did. So you could hear how Perfume Genius walked around and spoke into that. That experience is best experienced on headphones. And because more people than ever are consuming audio on headphones, binaural 3D audio is becoming alive. Now, binaural audio has actually been around since the late 1800s. It's been around for almost a century, but a lot of people haven't heard of it because it hasn't been as commercially available as it is today. One of the first examples we saw of binaural audio was in 1881. Now, in 1881, we didn't even have speakers. We didn't have any sort of playback device to allow us to experience audio. The only device we had to experience audio was a telephone. And where do you put a telephone but to your ear? So when you're putting the speaker right to your ear, binaural audio is perfect. So a guy by the name of, oh man, it's French, and if Chloe was here, she would be mad because I cannot pronounce this. Clement Ader. He invents what is known as the first binaural audio system. What he did is he actually arrayed 2 microphones, imagine like 1 microphone for each ear, at the lip of the stage at the Opéra Garnier in France. And the idea for this was for someone who couldn't be at the opera could tune in and put 2 telephones to their ears and actually hear the opera from the audience's perspective, because the microphones were right there. That early binaural system was later dubbed as the theatrophone by this guy, Clement. The next big commercial utilization of binaural audio we see is in World War I. Both the Allies and the Central Powers used a binaural audio apparatus to actually localize enemy warplanes. What they did is they put 2 receiving horns up at the top of a submarine or a plane, and they spaced them several feet apart, and then it was connected by rubber tubes where an operator actually put it into their ears. That's from that sort of example right there. What better way to sort of localize and understand where that plane is by basically putting 2 big horns on your ears to hear it that way. A similar binaural audio system that was made up of 2 hydrophones, which are water microphones, were used for localizing submarines, which is in the other example there. Again, in broadcasting, in the early 1920s, we see binaural audio used as well. In the 1920s, still, the only way that we can consume audio is on telephones, is on earpieces. So binaural audio is still the way in which people are sort of communicating sound. A guy by the name of Franklin Doolittle, he broadcasts 2 different audio signals over 2 different bandwidths from his radio station in Connecticut. So basically, he had 2 microphones, one broadcasted over one radio station, and one went over on the other radio station. The only problem is when you listen back, you had to take 2 radios and tune one to one station and tune the other to the other station and like put them up to your head so you could hear it. But you'd be able to hear this much better than stereo system right from your left and your right ears. This is also a time a guy by the name of Harvey Fletcher develops a binaural hearing aid. What he does is he puts 2 microphones in the middle of a boardroom on like a table. And again, it's transmitted over telephone lines, because it's the only way we have to transmit audio at the time, goes over telephone lines to then an apparatus that he wore on his head with speakers with all the equipment under the table so that he could hear the conference room basically from the table amplified, so he could hear it. The 1930s, we see the first mainstream commercial application of binaural audio. That guy, Harvey Fletcher, who was also working at Bell Laboratories at the time. Bell Laboratories, a very, very famous telephone company, again, because that's what we were using, was telephones at the time to use audio, basically planted 2 microphones in the cheek of a mannequin head, and he called it the Oscar head. And he took this Oscar head and he went around the World's Fair and made these recordings with this head so that people could listen back on telephone receivers and hear it like Oscar did. It was super popular. But around this same time, in this same decade, a guy by the name of Alan Blumlein invents stereophonic sound and the first commercial loudspeaker. This first commercial loudspeaker that's introduced overtakes binaural audio as essentially the most viable cutting-edge audio technology. Because at the time, no one has headphones. And that's really important, right? We had earpieces for our telephones, but we didn't have headphones. So we had binaural audio way before we had speakers. But now, in the 1930s, we have stereophonic sound and speakers. That guy, Bloomfield, who also did the binaural audio, starts to file patents for stereo records, stereo films, and surround sound. 2 years later, the first stereo discs are cut, and in 1937, telephone companies like Bell Labs are already demoing a proprietary multi-track stereophonic system specifically for movie theaters. And that's where we see the first main application of stereophonic and stereo sound. Disney, Of course, the biggest audio company and entertainment company at the time releases Fantasia. Fantasia is the first commercial film released in stereo. Throughout the 40s, it's like early 40s when Fantasia came out. So Fantasia requires multi-speaker system for playback. The problem is all the theaters at the time have like one speaker. They're not set up for this type of stereo audio experience. So Fantasia gets shown at 13 very small theaters specifically outfitted with this type of speaker technology. Over the next 3 decades, stereo systems for both commercial and in-home use gradually become more affordable, more accessible, more used, and it overtakes mono audio as the new standard. It also basically puts binaural audio developments and all this crazy binaural 3D audio on the back burner, at least for a short amount of time. Because in the 70s, if you remember when I was speaking of in the earlier part of like the technology sort of advancing, this is when we see the stereo system. So we had all of these sort of advances in audio way before we even started implementing stereo systems in living rooms in the 1970s. And the really important thing about stereo systems at that time is that a lot of them came with a headphone jack. So this is the first time we're starting to see headphones be as commercially available with the playback technology as the speakers are. Because before that, you didn't have any device to plug your headphones into, and you didn't have headphones. So these stereo systems are now set up with these big speakers that a lot of people would just sit on the floor right in front of and listen, or they would plug headphones in and listen. So because more people, or at least some people, are listening to audio on headphones, we start to see the way people make music change. And we start to see artists use different recording technology because they know that their listeners are listening on headphones. So a German company at the time, Neumann, which maybe some of you guys are familiar with, they're a German microphone company, they released the KU-80, which is that crazy cyborg scary head there. It's a head-based binaural recording system. And it's really the first commercially available binaural recording system. And at the time, in 1978, Lou Reed, have all you heard of Lou Reed, very popular American rock artist? He employs the dummy head and releases an album called Street Hassle, completely in binaural audio. So in the 70s, we're seeing a very, very popular artist making this format because he knows for the first time people are listening on headphones. And to give you a little bit of example, I want you to listen to the first minute of video 6 in the playlist, and this is the first track off of Lou Reed's Street Hassle, recorded in binaural 3D audio. Okay, it's pretty good. So did you hear how the strings sort of come in, not just from the right or the left, but they kind of come in and sort of feel like they're circling around you? That's a sensation or a listening experience that only binaural audio can bring. Right? Stereo is just left and right, but binaural 3D audio is in front, back, behind, above, just like your ears hear the sound. In the 1980s, we see the Walkman, we see more portable listening devices, so we see other types of content being produced in this type of sound. At this point, it's called 3D sound, and a very, very famous American novelist named Stephen King releases one of his books in this type of audio. Stereophile magazine, I'm just going to read this quote, said, "The sense of depth and space is startling. The ambient feel of the environment combined with the sense of movement and positioning of the dialogue and highly effective sound effects makes for a more memorable experience. Listen in a darkened room for maximum impact." It's a scary book, so probably made it even scarier. The 1990s, there's a really, really cool application of binaural 3D audio in art. An artist named Janet Cardiff starts creating these binaural audio walks. Cardiff essentially guides the listener, like turn left here or go through the gateway, through site-specific soundscapes of her own design, which simultaneously alter and deepen the listener's perception of the physical landscape. The result is this distinct type of audio-centric virtual reality, which listeners have experienced from museums all the way from London's Whitechapel Library to New York City's Central Park. Then, in the 2000s, late 90s, but mainly early 2000s, we see a huge boom in the way in which we consume audio on the internet. YouTube becomes this amazing platform to experience this type of audio because you don't need any special device or algorithm to listen back to it. All you need is a pair of headphones, like you're all doing today listening to this audio. So this becomes a really great platform for people to share this type of content. In 2007, a company called Q Sound Labs puts out what has since arguably became the most popular binaural 3D audio recording ever produced. It has over 25 million YouTube views. The virtual barbershop is an auditory illusion that demonstrates just how dependent we are on being able to locate sounds in space. Stereo sound isn't capable of producing this lifelike sensation, so binaural audio is the sort of perfect application for it. I'm going to get really freaked out because this one is a really, really cool one. So go ahead and play just sort of the first minute of video 7 on the playlist. Little Orphan Annie again. Who's playing that? Okay, cool. So yeah, I encourage everyone to go back after the talk and listen to the whole thing because that one is like crazy. So as you can see, we've been using this type of format since the late 1800s. It's always sort of been around, and it's always been sort of used in sort of small use cases. But what's really interesting as of lately is this audio is making a big comeback in a big way. Right? As I kind of point out here, the technology behind the binaural 3D audio is more than a century old. But as of recent, it's gained a ton of popularity due to headphone sales and the way in which we are consuming on our mobile devices. So what I'm going to show you is just in the last like 5 to 6 years, how many types of art forms have actually used this because they know people are listening to audio on headphones more than ever. So first example, binaural 3D audio in film. Just last year, in 2016, a film called Notes on Blindness, Into Darkness, was a binaural film that was debuted at the Sundance Film Festival. It tells the story of a writer and theologian named John M. Hall, who over the course of many years documented his steadily deteriorating vision on audio cassette. Into Darkness mixes those archival recordings with binaural audio and 3D animations to immerse you in this whole world beyond sight. And to give you an example of what I'm talking about, I want you to listen to the trailer from the film and hear how he used it to best convey this story. Okay, I'm going to cut us just a bit short due to time. So pretty cool. Also, in the last 5 years, a company named AudioTour creates what they called Artobots at the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. It reimagines sculptures of crushed cars by the artist John Chamberlain as remnants of a fictional war straight out of Transformers. It's a crazy concept they did to promote the Transformers film and a fine art exhibit, and they used binaural 3D audio to tell this story to audience members attending the exhibit at the museum. Go ahead and press play on video number 9. It's okay. Okay? We're also seeing now binaural 3D audio being used in film. Just this year, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company, broadcasted an even scarier binaural version of their Knock Knock episode online, which marked the first time a TV show has ever produced in immersive 3D audio. The New York Times said, when you think that something is there with you, your body immediately thinks you're in danger. It brings the actual fear that they're feeling into the show with you. Any minute, the monsters can come after you. A very interesting use because they knew that their younger listeners of the television show were watching their episodes online with headphones. There's a really good video that they made about the experience of it and why they chose this format, which is video 10, which you can listen to now. Okay? And then after the success of that episode, with how many people they actually found that were listening to that episode that way, the BBC, who, mind you, originally were putting out binaural audio radio dramas back in the 70s, are now making a big effort to offer all of their radio programming in binaural 3D audio. A statistic that they put out at this time when they started broadcasting their radio was that 1/3 of the adult population is now listening to radio via headphones. And it's imperative to create personalized, immersive 3D audio experiences. This has also influenced brand new radio companies. One, for example, is called the Owlfield, who is exclusively now producing 3D audio dramas in various genres, from horror, fantasy, action, and adventure. We're even seeing binaural 3D audio now being used in theater. In Broadway, there was a show just this past year called The Encounter. So accompanied by a binaural 3D audio dummy head, right, that Neumann microphone we talked about before, a guy by the name of Simon McBurney tells his headphone-wearing audience the true story of a National Geographic photographer who found himself lost in the Amazon rainforest. A reviewer said, "Surely no Broadway production has ever thrown the doors of perception open as widely as The Encounter." And they made a very, very good trailer that they also shot in binaural 3D audio about the experience, which I want you to listen to now. Okay. So just in the past 5 years, we've seen binaural 3D audio being used in theater, in radio, in television, in film, in art. All of these formats are using this type of audio because the way in which we have listened to music and experienced sound on our devices has changed. And because of that, a large market is forming behind this new groundbreaking technology of binaural 3D audio. So just in the last few years, we've seen some very, very big moves in the space of this type of format and the companies making around it. OSIC, which is an over-the-ear headphone company who make headphones that allow your video games to become immersive. They use head tracking technology to turn the films and the video games that you experience into 3D audio, raised over $2.7 million on Kickstarter. Dysonics, which is a French company who makes this little module that gets put onto your headphones, any regular headphones, so that when you turn, the audio that you're listening to moves into 3D audio, was a part of a $3 million Series A raise led by Intel into this sort of new frontier. Razer, which is a very big video game company, just bought THX. THX makes certifications and algorithms for home theater receivers. They bought THX to sort of become the algorithm standard of VR 3D audio. Facebook acquired what many people would say is the leader in 3D audio software, a company by the name of 2 Big Ears, to allow and implement 3D audio consumption on the Facebook newsfeed and on videos that you'll consume on the Facebook platform. And companies like Garmin, who make action cameras, are starting to implement 3D audio microphones into their cameras, so when you capture immersive content, you're also capturing it this way with the audio. So in terms of current options for this type of format, now that it's becoming more popular and accessible, there are a lot right here. So OSIC, the company I mentioned before, they're not yet launched. They're about $600. They're only for playback. They're wired, so they're kind of more of a prosumer niche operation. Roland makes a pair of in-ear microphones, but they're wired. They don't work on mobile. They're not the highest quality. They don't really push them, but they exist. Dysonics, also only playback, only wired, requires special algorithms and software for you to experience it. Sennheiser has announced that they're going to be coming out with a pair of earbuds that let you capture binaural 3D audio either later this year or into the next year. But they are wired. We don't know the price of them yet, and I heard that they only are going to work on Android. Doppler Labs is a smart hearing aid company. They're making active listening ear modules that they say change the way you hear the world, not necessarily record it. So you can change the way in which you hear your environments. And Neumann, the company that I mentioned before, makes that dummy head that allows you to capture this type of audio, which is wired and has a very pricey price tag. So in the market, in the landscape of these types of companies, most of them are falling under one or the other. They're either consumption or they're creation. So something like a Neumann is great for recording, the best for recording, but doesn't allow you to consume at all. A company like OSIC is all about consumption at a high price, but doesn't let you create. And then Roland, because they can play back, sits in the middle, and Sennheiser. And then there's that one. You're probably wondering what that is, because I haven't talked about my company the whole talk. That's us. Hook Audio is aimed to sit right in the middle of creation and consumption. The reason? Well, because we believe we're providing that one little missing step to make something like binaural 3D audio a huge mainstream commercial success. We have always had devices that allow us to easily consume content and create content. When we had the cassette recorder. When we had CDs, we had a CD burner. Most of these devices that let us capture were as expensive as the devices that let us consume. When we had HD television and we saw our first sporting game in HD, we had devices that allowed us to capture HD content. The iPod gave us digital platforms to create on the digital device that we consumed. The problem with binaural 3D audio right now is that this is one of the cheapest ways to record it. That's one of the easiest and the hardest ways to actually capture binaural 3D audio. A head, headphones, a recorder, batteries. Don't be a dummy. Use your head. Hook Audio is the makers of the first consumer-grade, fully wireless, fully smartphone accessible, record to anything 3D audio microphone for under $250. They're also a pair of headphones that fit right in my pocket. This is it. If I put the Neumann head on stage, it would take up like the whole stage, and I certainly wouldn't have it in my pocket. So, what these are, it's basically look like a pair of sport headphones, right? You've got your speaker drivers here, but then you have a microphone in each of the earbuds. What this is designed to do is pair to your phone over Bluetooth. So you pair it to your phone, and they act just like any other pair of regular Bluetooth headphones. When you go to capture a video or an audio file on your phone, instead of using the built-in mic on the phone, it grabs it from the 3D audio microphones in each of your ears. It's essentially turning your head into that dummy head and putting it entirely to your phone so that you can capture a recording and share it to any person across any platform, and all they have to have is a pair of headphones to experience what you just recorded. As an example, you guys can play these 3 videos in the playlist, which are videos that I captured just with this. No altering, no changing, I was just there, I put up my phone, and what these do is they show a very good comparison of audio captured with your built-in mic on your phone, which is garbage, and audio captured from the mics in each of your ears. So go ahead and listen to those now. Everyone hear those? Yeah? So you hear the difference? Yeah? It's pretty obvious, right? Cool. So the last thing I do want to do also is I want to bring someone up on stage and I want to do a demo and I want people to experience it. If anyone is interested in purchasing, we sell them right now through hookaudio.com. I've made a very special coupon code for everyone here. It's in green, so everyone can see it. But if you want to contact me as well, that's our email there, info@hookaudio. If you have any questions, again, sold through hookaudio.com. We have a ton of videos on our site, links to our YouTube and our Twitter, where we showcase a ton of the content and sort of how the product is used. So now I'd love to bring a couple people up and do a demo with them. So who wants to do it? Anyone? Really? No one? Oh. Yeah. How am I on time? 10 minutes? Hi. What's your name? Tapo. Tapo? Yeah. Okay, Anthony. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Okay. Okay, so Tapo here is going to try, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right, sorry. Is going to try it out. So how this works is there's just one single button. I already have them paired with my phone. So I press the button, right, just to pair it to my phone, just like any other pair of Bluetooth headphones. So what you do is they go behind your head, and then they hook over your ears. You can pop it in. Yep. Just like that. And if you don't mind me showing, you can kind of bend it back a little, like that. Fits right there. Okay. Yeah. So they're designed to feel and fit like a sport headphone because their microphones are very sensitive. So if you have any sort of cable noise or any sort of problems during the recording, it's going to be heard. So they need to be a secure fit. So right now, they're just paired to my phone, and they act like regular headphones. We have a 3D audio recording app. It's available on iOS, and it's available on Android. And what happens is when you open up the app, it transforms them from headphones into microphones. It has to be easy, it has to be quick, and it has to be simple. And that's how we've tried to design it. So when I open up this app, well, I'm going to quit it for the first time. I'll get everything else out. Okay. When I open up the app, you'll be able to hear that they go from headphones and the microphones engage and kick in. So one sec. Cool. So it's going to be a little hard to show, but what you're actually seeing here is what looks like your normal camera app, but there's a couple added features on here. There are faders that are moving with these little green ticks on the left and the right side. What there are is actually his ears. So if I were to snap in the left ear, you'd see those ticks move. Again, it might be a little hard to see from where you're at, but it's the left ear and the right ear. The reason for that is because we now finally have the ability to change the level of our recordings on our phone. Right? As it stands right now, we just sort of throw a Hail Mary when we start a video and just get what we get. Now we can control that. You can click and drag anywhere on the screen to be able to adjust the mic gain, which is very cool. But you want to be careful, because if the mic gain is down here, and I clip, and it goes over that little mic tick, it's telling us the sound is too loud, it's going to distort, bring it up, give it more room. You can also adjust your monitoring level by pressing the headphone buttons on the phone, because you don't want to be at a concert recording something in 3D audio and feel like you're wearing earplugs. So it's actually amplified. Do you hear that? How it's like a bit louder, right? Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a recording, and I'm going to have it listen back. So come here in the center. I'm going to have you hold the phone here, right out in front. Okay. And then we're going to hit record right there. So right now we've hit record, and instead of using the built-in mic, it's grabbing it from his ears. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a recording, and when you listen back, you're going to point to where you heard me. So when I say something like, I'm over here, you're going to point there when you listen back. I'm over here. Keep going. I'm over here. No, not yet. I'm over here. And I'm over here. Okay, now when he hits end on that video, it burns it and exports it straight to a video here. There's a little export wheel when it's done. When it's finished processing, the result is this video file that I can share anywhere, straight from the app. Or I can plug in a pair of headphones or use these headphones, because they're still now into headphone mode, to listen back to that experience. So now you're going to listen back to that file and hear where my voice was. And I want you to point when you hear me say, I'm over here.
I'll close my eyes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And it's going to be in his ears now. There I am. Yeah. So you hear how my voice moved entirely around you. It wasn't just left and right. It was front, it was behind, it was above, it was below. In the app, you can do video, or you can do just audio. And that's cool for a lot of people at concerts or musicians or journalists who are capturing audio. You can actually disable the video camera, start record, put the phone to sleep, put it in your pocket, and record. Thank you. Give him a round of applause. Now, the other thing I want to do with our second volunteer is actually play back that file on a pair of regular headphones, and I want you to point where I was, right? So if I took that video file, you can come on up. What's your name? Vincent. Sorry? Vincent. Yes. Anthony, nice to meet you. Okay, Vincent's going to put these on, and he's going to listen to the exact same file that Tapo, I think it was. Yeah, listen back. You're going to point again, okay? People call this device like the GoPro for sound because it records audio this way, but it doesn't require it to be listened back. Here, wait, don't cheat. What's going in the ears? Cool. So what I'm going to do, too, is I'm going to upload this video then straight to our YouTube playlist so that you can all hear it as well. One sec. Jin, do you want to handle this? Connect to the Wi-Fi, and then you can just grab it from here and go to YouTube. Just got to connect to Wi-Fi. While that's uploading, oh, thank you very much. All right, thank you. Round of applause. All right. A couple of the cool things about the headphones is that, let's say you have like a DSLR camera or a GoPro, you're using more of a pro-end device, you're working in a studio that doesn't have Bluetooth. This little recording cable comes with the product, and what this does is when you plug it into the micro USB headphone jack, it turns the microphones into a wired microphone. So now this can be plugged into a field recorder or a DSLR camera, or this can go straight to a GoPro. So we say with the Hookverse, you can now capture binaural 3D audio to any device for a fraction of what it cost before on these sort of big-end microphones. I think while that's still uploading, maybe it's a good time for questions, a Q&A. Does that sound good, Jen? Yeah. Cool. Does anyone have a question? Yep.
I just want to ask, has anyone in the music industry used your earphones to record, and how is it compared to the Newman's microphone, like the sound quality?
Yeah, we haven't. So on our YouTube playlist and on our site, you'll see we do a ton of music videos in 3D audio. So we have a whole playlist for music videos captured this way. They're these one-shot, one-take music videos where you are immersed as the listener. You hear it from the cameraman's perspective, and you see it from his perspective as well. So he sort of enters into a group of artists playing, and you feel like you're right there in the center of the circle experiencing that audio. In terms of how we compare to something like the Neumann microphone, imagine the comparison being sort of like that Sony Handycam that I showed you capturing in HD, as opposed to like a RED camera, a cinema camera, a pro-end digital camera. Still accomplishing the same sort of task of being able to capture 1080, but the pro-end camera has less noise. It's maybe more exact. It's more crisp. The Neumann can handle really, really low, quiet, like recordings very well. If you listen on ours, they might be a bit noisier, but it's because we're not using $7,000 microphones, right? We're using much less microphones. So the experience is the same, but the quality might just be a bit lower because it's sort of meant for consumers, and it's portable, and it's wireless. But we have other products that we're coming out with later that will sort of give more of that experience. But that's kind of the difference. Does that make sense? Cool. Is that a hand? No? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I have already uploaded the video, but I'm not sure it is uploaded to the playlist.
Okay.
Title is Taiwan Beast Demo.
Hello，我想要请问的就是说，我刚刚听了，觉得它在录音上面的功能好像非常非常的强大哦。那是不是有同时被运用在影片的制作上面，并且那个制作是所录下来的声音是足够，就是说我们在做影片的后制的时候的声音的素材的取得的这个事情？再讲一遍。
Sorry.
好，因为我觉得这个的录音的功能非常的强大，让人非常印象深刻。然后我很好奇，就是说我们现在所录制下来这个声音的素材，是不是有足够到作为影片制作的后期使用上面的？就是说，特别是for电影的制作这件事情上面，以后在一个比较大的影厅放映，然后在这样子的声音的设备被聆听的时候，有足够的素材被制作了。
Yes.
所以它
One note on that, which is interesting. So many people don't know that if you have a home receiver, like a home theater receiver, that box, that sound system receiver, you'll see a little sticker on it that says like THX or DTS. The reason that sticker is on those home theater receivers, and I know you mentioned movie theater, but just for example of home theater, those stickers are on there because that company licensed an algorithm from those companies that digitally upmixes that audio for surround sound. So often the DVDs of the music that we listen on the home theater receivers are actually coming in as stereo audio, as 2 channels. The algorithm that they license is what pushes it to those speakers. So for instance, if you listen back to the recording that we just made, and I actually just uploaded it to the YouTube playlist, so I'm gonna have you check in a sec. If you played that back on a home theater system and a receiver, the audio would move in the circle around you because the algorithm on that box is designed to do it. It's kind of cool. On that being said, everyone go ahead and listen. I added the video to the playlist. Make sure you guys have it, but you can listen back and hear exactly what that sounded like when he recorded it. You guys all see it? Yeah? I want to listen to.
在场还有就是各位有问题的吗？各位有疑问的吗？现场还有就是观众有疑问的吗？可以举手。哎，那边。
我想请问一下，就是刚刚有个 demo 在拍 video 的时候啊，那我想知道，在拍那个 camera 有没有做校对？就是我们实际上我的眼睛是在这边，可是 camera 是在这边，那拍摄的时候可能会有角度、有距离，那这个眼睛跟耳朵的距离跟 camera 到耳朵的距离是不一样的。那这之间有没有做校对的功能？在录音的时候，录影的时候，嘿，谢谢。
Good question. Thankfully, just as a natural habit, when we capture video, put the camera right here. We don't put it like down here. Like we don't shoot video like at our hip like this. So yes, to accommodate for that and to get the least gap possible, you'd want to essentially think of the phone as your eyes. And you'd want to get the phone as close to your eyes as possible to sort of have that synced together. You don't want to hold it down here because there can be a bit of a separation. But most people, when they go to capture video, put it right here. So I don't know if you just listened back to that video, he had the phone right here. Did you sense a gap there where he had it? Oh, maybe you haven't listened yet. Sorry. But you'll notice because of where he had it, there's not much of a gap. If he put it down here and recorded, you would feel that. So it is important to pay attention to.
Okay, one more question. 再一个问题，现场还有任何疑问吗？好，看起来是没有啊。那我们就以掌声热烈的谢谢 Anthony。
Cool.
我们再一次以掌声谢谢讲师 Anthony Mattana 精彩的分享。现在我们将抽出2位幸运的来宾，可以获得我们的无线环绕录音耳机。那抽到之后呢，唱名3次，不在现场就会失去资格。那我们请 Anthony Mattana 帮我们抽出幸运的来宾。
Ready?
高先生，那手机末3码是906，请问有在现场吗？高先生，手机末3码是906。
They're not even here.
高先生906。如果没有的话，我们就抽下一位来宾喽。
I feel like they shouldn't get it because they weren't here for the talk. No, I'm just kidding.
吴小姐，手机末3码是665。吴小姐665，请到台前，我们等一下统一颁奖。那我们再抽出一位幸运的来宾。
Cool. Also, before I pick, I have some T-shirts like this. If anyone wants them, I have like I don't have a lot, not for everyone, but if you want, I guess just grab. Yeah, come as fast as you can. I guess. Okay.
林小姐，手机是898。林小姐898。 请到台前。那我们请2位一起上台，由我们的 Anthony 帮我们颁奖。
We're going to take a picture.
Okay.
You and the
Cool. Hi. Hi. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Enjoy. Cool. Enjoy. Thank you.
那我们最后再一次谢谢我们的讲师 Anthony Mattana， 感谢各位今日热情的参与。那我们2017年台湾 Biz 国际论坛媒合会到此圆满结束，请各位来宾将回馈单交给门口的工作人员。如果有借用翻译机的来宾，也请把它还给我们的工作人员，并取回您的证件。再次感谢您，我们再会。
If anyone wants it, yeah. Here, come up this way. Okay. Small, medium? Medium. Medium. There you go.